her friends and then left in a forest. Brianna Gay was only 16 years old. She loved TikTok. She was smart. She was just trying to find her place in the world, just like any other teenager. I do want to give a trigger warning right away for the unaliving of a minor. So if you think that is going to be harmful for your mental health, please just don't watch this video. It's not worth it. I will see you in my next one. Also, a quick little disclaimer that I am just a girl. I'm not a lawyer. All of this information is free on the internet. So if you know more about a case than I do, and if any of this information is incorrect, please just politely correct me in the comments. Don't be mean to me. Thank you. But on February 11th, 2023, she was lured to Lunier Park in Warrington, England, by two classmates, two kids that she thought were her friends, a boy and a girl. The three all agreed to meet up and hang out, so Brianna thought that this was just another hangout with her friends at a park. But in reality, they had been planning to unalive her for weeks. Apparently, they had a whole list of people that they wanted to unalive, and Brianna was just the beginning. That afternoon, CCTV caught her walking calmly toward the park she had no idea she wouldn't walk out of, and her body was discovered by a dog walker at 3:13 p.m. She had been 28 times in her head, neck, chest, and back. The scene was brutal, heartbreaking.
Thousands of players searched for me. Thousands failed.
Inhumane. The boy and the girl who took her life were only 15 years old. And after the cruel act, what they did was left her body in the dirt and went to a store to buy butter to go home and make pancakes. Like, what? How are you so calm after doing something like that? And when police started digging, they found something horrifying. Discord messages, a manifesto, and a step-by-step plan for the attack. One of them even filmed the aftermath. No one believed that this was an impulsive decision, that these were impulsive kids. No, this was a planned and calculated attack. They later talked about wanting to feel, quote, euphoric while unaliving someone. The two friends were brought to trial, and the girl confessed and pleaded guilty while the boy tried to deny it but was later found guilty. In January of 2024, both were sentenced to life in prison with the minimum sentence of 20 years. The judge called their actions, quote, sadistic torture because neither showed an ounce of remorse. Thank you for listening to Brianna's story. This one is so sad to me because it did not need to happen. They were teenagers. I don't understand it, but it is so sad. If you have any other cases you want me to cover, please leave them in the comments. I post true crime videos just like this one every single day, so if you enjoy this type of content, follow so you don't miss my next video, and please stay safe out there. You never know what's right around the corner.
Spooky story time. A follower that wants to remain anonymous sent me this story, and we're going to call it
About You, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
Chelsea says that last
Shout out to King Saul's boss and the build About You, and it's no one else.
And she says that her best friend's mom has told her that she's able to see shadow figures and lots of other things because she's always meditating, and she opened up her crown chakra. Chelsea says that she thinks that that's what it's called. At first, Chelsea thought that she was kidding because for the past 2 years, she's never experienced anything. Her best friend's mom's bedroom is in the basement, so they went down there. She talked to the mom. They were playing with the cat. They were just chilling. And Chelsea was getting ready to leave, so she tells her best friend's mom bye, and her and her best friend go around the corner towards the stairs so they could leave. As they're going to the stairs, they clearly hear, hey. And Chelsea said that this was not a whisper. It sounded like it was literally right next to them. She said that they look at each other, they sprint upstairs, and they nervously laugh it off. So they decided to text her best friend's mom and ask her, hey, by any chance, did you say hey to us? Were you trying to call us? Were you trying to talk to us? Anything at all? And of course, her best friend's mom said no. She has no idea what this was, what this could have been, and luckily she's never had any more experiences in that house again. She said that it was so clear and she cannot put a face to this voice, but she says that this voice sounded familiar. So it wasn't either of them. It wasn't the mom, so who else could it have been? They were the only three people down there. She says it was so... What do you guys think? Thank you so much to Chelsea for sending me this spooky story. If you guys have any other stories that you'd like for me to read, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them, and I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye!
I feel like this is a lot of our biggest fears for people who like drive in the middle of the night, but more specifically for trailer drivers. So this guy said that this happened to him a few years ago when he was driving a trailer, and at the time he did have a partner with him. He said that they would typically drive at night and that they would take turns, and the roads that they would be in did not have a lot of people driving back and forth on. He does admit that there were some nights where like he would be driving, but he would be very tired, but he knew that his partner was also extremely tired, so they would try to keep themselves awake and just try to be safe on the road. So there was one night where he was driving, his partner was actually sitting next to him. He just wanted to make sure that they both stayed awake, and he admits that the sound of the trailer on the lonely road and the radio started mixing in with themselves, and that his partner was really fighting to sleep, and he just told him, hey, you should go to bed, like just go to sleep, you need to get some rest. He also remembers thinking to himself in that moment, like, fuck, I'm also just as sleepy as he is, like how am I supposed to continue on? It was there that he saw something. Figure appeared in his window as he's driving, but he couldn't make out any facial features. It almost looked like it had a hood on. What he was able to see was that the thing, like the eyes were glowing, they were really bright. He said that this figure starts talking to him in a very firm voice and says, keep driving, don't stop the trailer, keep driving, don't stop the trailer. His heart started beating so fast, and he started thinking, what is this thing, who is this person, and why do I want to listen to him? And that he was listening to him, he just kept going and he wasn't stopping the trailer. Then all of a sudden his partner, who had been asleep next to him, woke up, screams at him, like screams his name, and points in front of them on the road. He was about to go straight when the road was turning into a curve. He did say that he hit the brakes really hard. He thought that they were going to crash, but thankfully they didn't. And when the trailer completely stopped, he told his partner about the figure that was at his window talking to him and how for some reason he was listening. They did end up continuing on the road, but only for a few miles, because they ended up at this really small town where there was a gas station and there was a spot where they could park the trailer. Some guy from that town ended up coming up to them and they started talking and told him that something weird happened on the road, and the guy literally tells them that there is a curve up ahead where a lot of people have lost their lives, and that the people who have crashed but didn't end up passing away have claims that some negative spirit or energy had shown up in the window of their car that caused them to have those accidents. Honestly, I thought the story was going to be like, oh, I was tired, I hallucinated, like, yeah, we need to stop and get some rest. Other people have crashed there. So like, can you imagine? Not only was he tired, but like an apparition basically almost made him crash and possibly pass away. There's other people who believe that it could be somebody who crashed there and now for some reason shows up and tries to do the same thing to others. Anyway, what do you guys think that is?
The only thing more baffling to me than missing persons cases are when that missing person then reappears over a decade later. She literally came back from the dead. She'd been declared legally dead years earlier. It was 2002 in Lititz in Pennsylvania. Brenda Heiss was a seemingly normal mother of two from the area who was working as an accountant. She had a son and a daughter aged 12 and 8. On the day she vanished, everything seemed to be fairly normal. She put some food out to defrost later and she took her kids to school. She'd been doing a good job of keeping the normal household routine together despite the fact that she was actually going through a divorce. It kind of seemed to everybody like her kids were keeping her going, keeping her in a normal routine. That's why it was so worrying when she all of a sudden just vanished. She never picked her kids up from school that day. She never even contacted anybody to say where she was. Now, obviously, due to her recent divorce, police started looking immediately into her ex, her husband. As bad as it sounds, they were wondering if he had killed her out of anger, revenge, or for financial gain. But her husband Lee seemed just as confused as everybody else, to be fair, and just as eager to get her home. Months and months went by with absolutely no sign of the missing mother. There was also no sign of foul play, no reason to believe any harm had come to her. Years and years rumbled on, and eventually Lee actually went to court to have her declared legally dead. He was then obviously able to remarry if he wanted to. He was able to claim on her life insurance policy too. Now, this again did kind of raise some eyebrows in the community. Neighbors did feel kind of suspicious of him about this, but really nobody had any proof. And sadly, her children had come to terms with the fact that their mum wasn't coming home. That was until 11 years later. Bear in mind her family really had moved on at this point. Daughter Morgan was 19 years old. She was attending college. She'd had a whole chunk of her childhood without a mom, when all of a sudden, into a police station in Florida, walked Brenda. By this point, it was April 2013. So many years had gone by. She told police officers that she was a missing woman, and at first they were a little bit confused, but she gave them all her details. She then revealed her absolutely unbelievable story to authorities. She said the day that she vanished, she did so of her own accord. She'd suddenly randomly decided on the spur of the moment to join a bunch of hitchhikers who were homeless, who were moving to Florida. She decided to abandon her children to sleep on the streets and sometimes even scavenge in bins for food. She would sit on the street corners and beg for money. She'd obviously not told anyone her real name, and she'd just been sharing tents with strangers and sleeping rough. And the only reason she wanted to hand herself in was that she was tired of being homeless. And when her children found out, they were understandably pretty upset and angry and reluctant to reunite with her. And honestly, I don't know how I would deal with that. I don't know how I would process that information. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think you would ever be able to forgive your mum for doing that?
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on...
Let's talk about when kids hear things that are not there.
Sauce,
If you're new here,
the
hi.
boss in the
I do know
building.
kids are pretty scary stuff, and today we're talking about a story that my longtime family friend actually told me the other day. So just for context purposes, these people have 2 children under the age of 3, and they have just moved into this older home. And in this home, it is a split level entry home where they have baby gates at the top of the stairs and at the other set of stairs that lead into the basement. So visually, they have a baby gate at the top of the stairs, and then at the very bottom of the second set of stairs, they have another baby gate. And he specifically says that the one in the basement is so old and rickety that you really have to shake it to get it to open. But anyways, his wife was home with the babies, and they were just hanging out in the living room. And in the living room, you can clearly see, like, over the banister, you can see the front door, you can see, like, who's coming in and out of the home. And they're just playing, watching TV, whatever, when all of a sudden, his wife and his oldest baby hear the shaking of the baby gate that is in the basement. And she immediately stops and kind of looks at her kid because he heard it too. And she even asked him, like, what was that? And their son responds with, "Daddy's home." And she's like, "No, he's not home. He's not supposed to be home right now." And I can't remember the exact conversation that they were having with this 2.5-year-old, but it eventually came down to, I'm not going down there. And when he was telling me this story, I immediately look at him and I look at my boyfriend and I'm like, there, I told you that there was something weird. And what I'm about to tell y'all is 100% real. I did not know anything about this house. I did not know any of the story. I didn't know anything about anything. They had me go over to their house and watch their kids so they could have like a date night. I said, sure, fine. They offered to have my boyfriend over as well because they know him, they know me. And originally, I told my boyfriend that I was just going to go by myself and whatever, because it wasn't going to be very hard and the kids were going to be asleep. And I was just like to watch the house. Probably 3 days before I'm supposed to do this, I'm just getting this feeling in my stomach and I don't want to go to their house by myself. And I don't know why. So I am begging my boyfriend to come, and thankfully he said yes. And it makes sense why I was feeling that way now. Oh, and after my family friend is like describing this entire story to me, he just ends the story by saying like, yeah, it's really weird because I think something's following me because everywhere I go and everywhere I live, something weird is happening. And I was just looking at him like, what? And then he doubles down and he says, yeah, everywhere I live, something weird happens. And I talk about this topic a lot on my page about how children seeing things, dolls, kids, it just freaks me out. Did you hear that? As you can tell, I'm trying to be proactive and film a lot of videos, which is why I'm wearing the same thing in multiple videos in a row. This is the second video where I think I got something and you can barely hear it. Just a little in the background. I don't know. And anything where someone else is able to see something and you are not, don't like it. don't like it. And I think it really boils down to children in my brain because I'm one of those people that believes that children are able to see things that adults are not because their minds are more open to seeing things
about you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
So I wasn't even gonna
Shout out to King Sauce Boss in the build about you, and it's no one else.
Need to know. There is something called the long walk. And many people thought it was just a conspiracy or just rumors online, but this is actually happening. The government supposedly selects 50 boys without explanation, and once they're chosen, they're in. And they have to walk at exactly 3 miles per hour. No breaks, no sleep, no food. And what's crazy is that if you slow down or stop, they issue you a warning. If you are issued 3 warnings, they take you out right then and there because there are soldiers following these 50 boys the entire time. And they keep going until there is one person standing. And that person gets the prize, which is allegedly anything the winner wants for the rest of their life. But at what cost? I mean, if they're willing to do this now, what comes next?
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
I have another creepy story about Epping Forest. This one comes from a woman who, after separating with her husband, who she has 4 children with, decides to move out of London and move somewhere a little bit safer and a bit more quiet. She chooses a house in Epping Forest. Instantly on moving in, the vibes are just not good. The house that she had seen when she came to look around was nice. It seemed bright, it seemed airy, but as soon as she moved in, the vibes seemed to change. The house was always cold. It was grey, it was grim. She had always been like a social person, and now she didn't want to leave the house. Of course, even though the house just didn't have homely vibes. She never wanted to go out. She didn't want to see her friends. She has 4 children. One day they are all out playing in the garden, and she is in the kitchen. She can see them playing outside the entire time. She looks up and there is a man and a woman talking to her children. There are no boundaries to her garden. It is just the forest. So immediately her heart sinks and she runs outside. But by the time she gets out there, they are gone. They are nowhere to be seen. These 2 random people she's just witnessed with her own eyes have just disappeared into the tree line. And she can tell by her children's body language that they are scared and they are not happy. And by the time she gets out there, all 4 of the children are running back towards their mum and back towards the back door. When they come in, they immediately tell their mum that the 2 people standing outside said that this is their house and they need to leave. She calls her ex-husband and she lets him know what's just happened, and he is very unhappy with the whole situation. He's unhappy with how the house feels. He's unhappy with the change that he has seen in his ex-wife. And now that this is happening, he just feels very uncomfortable about the entire move. So he comes over the very next day and it's a landline ring, and they do not have a landline, but it sounds like it's coming from inside her house because they are conjoined next door. And so she tries to go back to sleep. A few nights after that, again, she hears the same landline, and this time it is 3 a.m. and she is thinking, who on earth could be calling them on a landline at this time in the morning? So at this point, she's now awake and she hears a thudding, like a rhythmic thudding. And then she realizes that that thudding sounds like it's coming from inside her house. And so she goes outside, she creeps down her stairs, and she sees that in her kitchen, the back door is wide open and the wind is banging it on one of her kitchen walls. She calls her ex-husband and he comes straight round, and he goes out into the garden with a torch, and they see that their back fence has been knocked down completely. The fence that he has just put up. He decides that he's going to stay on the sofa because, again, he is feeling so uncomfortable about the entire thing. They start to think that it's actually the neighbours who they haven't even met yet. That week, the ex-husband makes it his business to speak to next door. And when he finally does meet the neighbours, they are a couple in their late 20s and they do not have a landline. So he asks that he's going to prolong his stay for a few more days. And one night when he's sleeping on the sofa, he hears a landline ring. He picks up his mobile and he records the sound. The next morning, he's going to go and he's going to confront the neighbours because it very much sounds like it's coming from the walls. The next morning, when he wakes up and he goes to play the recording to the neighbours, you can hear the ringing, and then you can very much hear the sound of an older man's voice telling him to get out. The couple next door tell him that nobody has stayed in that house for longer than a few months since they've lived next door. The family pack up, they put the house back up for sale, and they never look back. And I do not blame them.
Someone on here described the Grenfell tragedy as nightmare fuel, and I couldn't agree more. Innocent families instructed to stay inside a burning building until they died. It was the 14th of June 2017 when a panicked call came in to emergency services. It had been a quiet evening for them in London up until that point, but just after midnight, all hell would break loose. A malfunctioning fridge freezer on a 4th floor flat of the Grenfell Tower caused a fire to break out. Now, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary for the emergency services. They were very used to appliances setting on fire and just being able to put them out pretty quickly. However, a recent refurbishment of the Grenfell Tower and the installation of dangerous cladding caused the entire building to literally be engulfed in flames in minutes. There is a massive deep dive on my podcast, The Bourne Investigation, on Apple and Spotify if you want all of the details of the Grenfell disaster. But if you want the summary, keep watching. Very quickly, things got out of hand, and due to that new cladding, the fire spread at a staggering rate. Fire was literally flying upwards, and suddenly white-hot flames could be seen engulfing the entire building. More and more frantic calls started pouring into emergency services, who just began getting really overwhelmed. And the videos of the tower, if you've seen them, you'll know exactly what I mean. It honestly looks like a UK 9/11. By 1:27 a.m., the fire reached the roof of the building, where many residents had gone to seek cover. Families and children, meanwhile, were waking up dazed and confused, wondering what the hell was going on. They were waking up, opening their doors, and being met with thick black smoke. And the advice right from the get-go was there was a stay-put policy in place. Now, this was apparently standard protocol in these high-rise flats, these kind of concrete buildings. The fire service would tell residents to stay indoors to essentially prevent and eventually realized she'd passed away. As the fire spread uncontrollably, the stay put advice was reversed. After 2:30 a.m., they started encouraging people to just get out of this burning building by any means necessary. It was obvious by now that this was a deadly fire, but there were still around 100 people inside at this point. Firefighters literally raced up and down the narrow stairwells trying to rescue people, dragging out unconscious and conscious people. Every time residents would try and escape from their flat, they just opened the door and they were just gagging at this toxic smoke. People were throwing their pets out of the window to try and save them. Some people got bed sheets tied together to make like a rope to scale the building. People tried to make a run for safety. They were slipping over unconscious and deceased people in the stairwells. The heroic firefighters did manage to save many residents. It's reported that around 220, give or take, managed to escape. But tragically, 72 lives were lost. Children died, disabled people were just stuck in this burning building. There was no plan in place to evacuate disabled people in case of emergency. To really just demonstrate how powerful this fire was, it took 2.5 days to totally put the fire out. But the devastation was far from over. The aftermath of this tragedy included lies, protests, and that iconic Stormzy 2018 Brits performance. If you know, you know. For a full deep dive into the tragedy, over to The Bourne Investigation on Spotify and Apple.
Today's story.
Ever wondered what your home looks like from space? Enter your address and get a 360-degree satellite view of your home right now. See your city.
This story is about El Puente de los Duendes in Puebla, Mexico. Translation: the Bridge of the Duendes in Puebla, Mexico. This bridge is real. A lot of people have not gone to the bridge. Obviously, people can go if they want to. I've seen pictures of people capturing what they think is a duende in them, which is And just so you can get an idea, this is the actual Puente de los Duendes. So yeah, we'll make sure we won't go there. So the story goes, or I should say the legend goes, because it's because of the story I'm about to tell you where people have been warned to never go to this bridge. Kids who grow up in that area are warned to never go to that bridge. People claim that people who go there and get taken by the duendes don't come back. They say that the duendes are very bad and that they will drag people down to their bridge. And thanks to the one and only person who was able to escape is why we know what we know about this bridge. So there was this guy who had just left a party and he was really, really drunk. Because he was so cold at nighttime, he decided that before he went home, he was going to go and get some wood so that he could start a fire. The only wood that he was able to get was really close to the bridge. Because of the stories that he had heard about the bridge and the duendes, he decided to get the wood really quickly and head back home. So as he turned around with the wood that he was able to get to go back home, he saw this really big chicken. He thought to himself, well, this chicken couldn't belong to anybody because everybody who has chickens would always have them in cages. He decided that he wanted to get that chicken so that he could take it home
about you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
Moving very slowly.
Shout out to King Saul's boss in the building about you.
He really wanted to eat that chicken. It was a big chicken. He really wanted to feed himself. He's like, I'm not giving up. I'm gonna get that chicken. He kept following this chicken until he realized that the chicken had stopped right in the middle of the bridge, and he realized that he was standing on one end of the bridge of the duendes. As he's realized and that he's standing on the edge of that bridge, he decides that he really wants to run, but his body betrayed him and he could not move. He said that it almost felt as if his body was like asleep, and all of a sudden he just started walking towards the bottom of the bridge without him wanting to go there. He said that as he was getting closer, he could hear laughters and people talking under the bridge. That's also the moment where he turned to look at where the chicken was standing in the middle of the bridge, and he saw where that chunky, chicken he wanted to eat turned into this little person with a hood on. That this little duende was now looking at him, just laughing at the fact that they tricked him. For a moment, the guy was able to move his body by himself, like it wasn't asleep, it wasn't being controlled. He put his arm out and started praying, just saying prayers over and over and over again. After that, he remembers saying to himself, God, if my body is to be with these demons, at least let my soul go with you. In that moment, he heard where all these duendes started screaming almost like if they were in agony and pain. He remembers these duendes going to him, trying to attack him, but he regained full control of his body and he started running away from that bridge. He almost felt like he had blacked out. The next day in the morning when he woke up, he thought that everything that had happened to him the night before was a dream. However, he started feeling a lot of pain near his ankles. When he looked down, he had a lot of scratch marks and he was still bleeding from his ankles. Apparently, this duendes did try attacking him, but he managed to get away. When he finally got up and started walking out, there was literally a trail of blood from him running home and a lot of chicken feathers all over the place. He did continue walking until he realized that that blood trail was going to end up at El Puente de los Duendes, at the bridge of the Duendes. I would have never left my house after that, because what the hell? Also, the fact this is the only story that we've heard from someone who has gotten away from them there, and because of that, people...
It's his birthday. Everybody wish him happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody wish Sauce, the official boss, happy birthday, man. Let's go. Let's see it in the timeline.
Oh, man. We're back once again.
I like the...
it's a beautiful day.
I like the wish.
Down, just Sauce. Get you a bag of that. Just light up.
I like
King
the wish.
Fire, Mr. Head
Sauce the
Rock.
boss.
Can't greet him with two, only the third eye. Killer Vision, PSER, in hospital. Left me on the track. Accidents to operas. Conscious, unconscious. Flow riding on my train. Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable. Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge, therefore I'm flying off the tracks. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When I land soul train line, hop up on my dad. They fear what they don't understand. I forgive them cause they don't really know no better. Hope let them walk on water. I'm dancing in the middle of the
Sauce the
ocean with a
boss,
puzzle
man.
sweater.
Happy birthday.
How bad do you want success? I was holding my breath unconsciously. The conscious me woke up and came up for air. I turned 136 into the bombardier. Dancing for chop, I guaranteed I'm in the dreams. Fire miss, Mr. Clean. Dirty talk, come shots, Listerine. The devil tried to catch me slipping, but my third eye open. I see when I don't look. Body growing out the ground. I'm breathing the coke, the pressure coming.
I like to give a big shout out to Boys
You can
Rose.
count on the finger of his hand how many people I can trust. The wordplay insane. Meditate, bring down hate.
My fault. The beats is blasting. The beats is beating. Got some shit to unbox because you know we have new decks on the way. Wait, new waves for the play bay. Tell them to go play with their mother. Coño, pero yo.